r/confession. My son told me to get over my trauma, so I exposed his golden child status. My son told me to get over my trauma, so I exposed his golden child status. Mom, can you just not? You're making everyone uncomfortable. I stared at my 22-year-old son Jake across the kitchen table, my coffee growing cold in my hands. 30 seconds ago, I had finally worked up the courage to tell him why I sometimes freeze up during family gatherings, why certain raised voices make me disappear into myself, why I've been in therapy for the past 2 years. I thought maybe, just maybe, my eldest child would understand why his mother isn't always the picture of stability he expects me to be. Instead, Jake was looking at me like I'd just announced I was joining a cult. I mean, didn't all that stuff happen when you were like, my age? He continued, not even bothering to look up from his phone. That was decades ago. Uncle Mike says you just need to let it go and stop dwelling on the past. It makes Christmas weird when you get all quiet and stuff. The words hit me like ice water. Uncle Mike, my brother who had tormented me throughout our childhood, who had stood by and watched while our father. Uncle Mike, who Jake golfed with every weekend, who paid for Jake's spring break trips and had co-signed his car loan. Jake, I'm trying to explain why sometimes I. Look, I get it, okay? Bad stuff happened. But like, everyone has problems. He finally glanced up, irritation clear in his eyes. Sarah's dealing with her student loans, Marcus is working 2 jobs, and Lisa's trying to figure out her whole life situation. We don't all have time to process your childhood issues right now. Sarah. Marcus. Lisa. My other children, his siblings, who had been walking on eggshells their entire lives while Jake glided through consequences like they were made of tissue paper. Sarah, who had been taking out loans for college while Jake's tuition was mysteriously handled. Marcus, who got grounded for a month for a C+ while Jake's academic probation was met with a new laptop to help him focus better. Lisa, who was still paying back the money she borrowed from my purse at 16, while Jake's credit card bills appeared and vanished without explanation. Right, I said slowly. Everyone has problems. Exactly. So maybe it's time to just move forward? For everyone's sake? Jake's phone buzzed and his attention was already drifting. Oh, Uncle Mike wants to know if I can make it to the lake house this weekend. He's thinking of putting the boat in my name for insurance purposes. The boat. The fucking boat that my other children had never even been invited to use. Something crystallized in that moment, sitting in my kitchen while my son dismissed decades of pain like it was an inconvenient scheduling conflict. It wasn't just his callousness, it was the casual entitlement, the assumption that his comfort mattered more than everyone else's truth. The expectation that I would just swallow my pain, again, to keep his world smooth and uncomplicated. Just like I'd been doing his entire life. Just like everyone had been doing his entire life. You know what, Jake? You're absolutely right. I stood up, dumping my cold coffee in the sink. Everyone does have problems. And I think it's time everyone knew about all of them. He looked up then, catching something in my tone. What do you mean? I smiled, really smiled, for the first time in weeks. Oh, honey. You'll find out soon enough. The family group chat was going to be very interesting tonight. I spent the rest of the day making lists. Not grocery lists or to-do lists, the kind of lists that would have made my therapist proud and my family absolutely livid. I sat at my desk with a yellow legal pad, methodically documenting 22 years of receipts, both literal and metaphorical. Jake's freshman year dorm damage, $2,847, labeled as unexpected housing costs. Sarah's freshman year dorm damage, $127, docked from her summer job earnings. Jake's DUI lawyer fees, $5,500, family emergency fund. Marcus's speeding ticket, $200, worked extra shifts for 3 months. Jake's spring break trips, Bahamas 2019, Cabo 2020, Miami 2021, Uncle Mike's generosity. Lisa's senior trip request, money's tight, maybe next year never came. My phone buzzed with a text from my sister Carol, *. Mike mentioned Jake might join him in the business after graduation. So exciting. That boy has such a bright future. *. That boy. Not my nephew. Not one of your kids. That boy, like my other 3 children, were just background characters in the Jake show. I stared at the message, remembering Lisa's face last month when she'd asked about using Uncle Mike as a reference for her marketing internship application. Oh, honey, you know how busy he is, I'd said, knowing damn well he'd have moved mountains if Jake had asked. Lisa had just nodded, that careful, practiced expression my other kids wore whenever Jake's name came up. The look that said I know better than to compete with a favorite. Another text popped up, this time from Jake, *K, forgot to mention, Uncle Mike's business partner wants to meet me next week about that entry-level position. Can you grab my good suit from the cleaners? The good suit. The $800 suit that had been Jake's graduation gift, while Sarah got a $50 gift card to Target and a lecture about fiscal responsibility. I took a screenshot of the text and added it to a new folder on my phone. Then I scrolled back through months of family photos on Facebook, really looking at them for the first time. There we were at Christmas, Jake prominently featured in every shot, while Sarah was cropped out of half of him. Easter dinner, Jake's girlfriend invited and seated at the main table, while Marcus's boyfriend of 2 years was relegated to the kids' table with the cousins under 12. The 4th of July, Jake holding court on Uncle Mike's boat while Lisa helped in the kitchen with the other women, invisible and uncredited. 22 years of this. 22 years of watching my other children learn to make themselves smaller, quieter, less demanding, while Jake expanded to fill every available space. My phone rang, Mom. Hi sweetie, I just wanted to confirm that Jake's coming to Sunday dinner. I'm making his favorite pot roast. What about the others? Oh, of course they're welcome too. You know that. Welcome. Not planned for. Not expected. Just, welcome, like afterthoughts at their own grandmother's table. Mom, when's the last time you made Sarah's favorite meal? A pause. Well, you know Sarah's so busy with school and work. And her dietary restrictions make it complicated. She's lactose intolerant, Mom. That's not a restriction, it's a medical condition. There's no need to get defensive, honey. I just think Jake appreciates family time more than the others do. I hung up and added another line to my list: Sunday dinners planned around Jake's schedule and preferences, every week for 22 years. My laptop chimed with an email notification. The Family Reunion Planning Committee, headed by Uncle Mike's wife, naturally, announcing that Jake had been chosen to give the speech representing the next generation of our family values. The next generation. All 4 of my kids were in their 20s, but somehow Jake was the only one who counted as the future. I opened a new browser tab and started typing, *family group chat, some things we need to discuss. *. It was time to change the narrative. The cursor blinked at me for 20 minutes before I finally started typing. How do you begin dismantling a mythology that's taken 2 decades to build? How do you tell a family that everything they think they know about fairness and love has been a carefully constructed lie? I've been doing some thinking about the family reunion speech, and I have some concerns about Jake representing our family values without a full picture of what those values actually look like in practice. I deleted it. Too direct. Uncle Mike would shut it down before anyone else even saw it. Looking forward to the reunion. I thought it might be fun to put together a family memory book. I've been going through old photos and documents and found some really interesting stories about how we've supported each other over the years. Better. Innocent enough to avoid immediate suspicion, but pointed enough that the smart ones would start asking questions. I hit send before I could lose my nerve. The responses came within minutes. Aunt Carol, what a sweet idea. I love looking at old family photos. Uncle Mike, sounds good. Keep it light though, nobody wants to rehash old drama. My mother, just make sure you choose flattering photos of everyone, dear. Sarah, do you need help scanning documents? I have a good printer at my apartment. Sarah. Always offering to help, always trying to contribute, even though she learned years ago that her efforts would be overshadowed by whatever Jake happened to need that week. Jake, cool, whatever. Just don't use that photo from my sophomore year with the weird haircut. Even in a conversation that wasn't about him, Jake managed to make it about him. I was crafting my response when my phone rang. Sarah's number. Mom? That family memory book idea sounds really nice, but are you okay? You seemed a little off in the group chat. This was Sarah. 24 years old, working full-time while finishing her master's degree at night, still living in a studio apartment because every spare dollar went to student loans. Sarah, who called to check on me, who remembered my therapy appointments, who noticed when I seemed off in a text message. I'm fine, sweetheart. Just thought it would be good to document some family history. Okay. She didn't sound convinced. Mom, did something happen with Jake? You two seemed tense at dinner last week. Perceptive. But then, Sarah had always been watching, always reading the room, always trying to figure out how to navigate the invisible rules that kept shifting around Jake's needs. We had a conversation that got me thinking about family dynamics, I said carefully. A world of understanding in that single syllable. Well, if you need help with a memory book, I'm free this weekend. Marcus might want to help too, he's good with design stuff. Marcus. My middle child, who had taught himself graphic design through YouTube videos because the art classes he wanted were too expensive the same year we paid for Jake's fraternity dues and spring formal expenses. That would be wonderful. Maybe we can make it a project for all of you kids. All of us? Sarah laughed, but there was an edge to it. Mom, when has Jake ever volunteered for a family project that didn't directly benefit him? The question hung in the air between us. Sarah had said it lightly, like a joke, but we both knew it wasn't. Maybe it's time he learned, I said. Another pause. Then, quietly, Mom, what are you planning? I looked at my legal pad, covered in 2 decades worth of carefully documented inequality. At my laptop screen, where the family group chat was already moving on to other topics, Uncle Mike sharing photos from his latest golf trip with Jake, my mother posting about the pot roast dinner she was planning around Jake's schedule. I'm planning to tell the truth, Sarah. The whole truth. About what? I smiled, that same feeling of crystalline clarity washing over me again. About everything. After I hung up with Sarah, I couldn't sit still. The legal pad felt like it was burning a hole in my desk, so I decided to do something I'd never done before. I went looking for the actual receipts. 22 years of financial records were scattered across filing cabinets, old shoeboxes, and folders stuffed into closets. But as I dug deeper, the pattern became impossible to ignore. Bank statements showing mysterious cash withdrawals that coincided with Jake's emergencies. Credit card bills for expenses I couldn't remember approving. Insurance claims that somehow only ever benefited one child. I was elbow deep in a box of tax documents when I found it, the college fund statements. My hands actually shook as I spread them across the dining room table. For accounts opened the same year, with the same initial deposit amounts. But the withdrawal patterns told a very different story. Jake's account, emptied by sophomore year to cover not just tuition, but housing upgrades, meal plan increases, fraternity fees, and something labeled academic support services that I was pretty sure meant paying someone to write his papers. Sarah's account, depleted halfway through freshman year because we borrowed from it to cover Jake's unexpected expenses, with promises to pay it back that never materialized. Marcus's account, rated to pay for Jake's DUI lawyer, with a note in my own handwriting, emergency, will replace ASAP. Lisa's account, the smallest withdrawals, carefully managed, because by the time she was ready for college, there was barely anything left to mismanage. I sat back in my chair, staring at the evidence of my own complicity. Because this wasn't just about Uncle Mike's favoritism or my mother's blind spots. I had done this. I had enabled this. I had robbed my other children to pay for Jake's consequences, and I'd convinced myself it was necessary each time. Emergency fund, I'd called it. Just this once, I'd told myself. We'll make it right later. Later never came. It never fucking came. My phone buzzed with a text from Jake, *Mom, Uncle Mike's accountant needs my social security number for some paperwork. Can you send it? Also, do you know where my birth certificate is? Something about setting up business accounts. Business accounts. While Marcus worked double shifts at a warehouse and Sarah ate ramen noodles for dinner 3 nights a week. I was typing a response when another message appeared, this one from Lisa. Asterisk, hey mom, I know you're busy, but I wanted to give you a heads up, I probably can't make it to the family reunion. Can't really afford the time off work, and the hotel costs are pretty steep. Asterisk. The hotel costs that Uncle Mike had mysteriously offered to cover for Jake, while everyone else was expected to figure it out themselves. I looked back at the college fund statements, then at Jake's text, then at Lisa's message about missing her own family reunion because of money. Something snapped. I opened the family group chat and typed, asterisk, quick question for everyone, I'm organizing some financial documents and want to make sure I have good records. Can each of the kids send me a rough estimate of how much family financial support you've received over the years? College, emergencies, gifts, co-signed loans, that kind of thing. Just for my records. Asterisk. The typing indicators appeared immediately. Disappeared. Appeared again. Asterisk, Marcus, Mom, are you sure you want this in the group chat? Asterisk. Asterisk, Uncle Mike, maybe this is better handled privately? Asterisk. Asterisk, Sarah, I can send you my numbers privately if you want. Asterisk. Asterisk, Jake, why do we need to do this? Seems kinda personal. Asterisk. And there it was. Jake's immediate discomfort with transparency, Uncle Mike's desire to keep things private, and my other kid's instinct to protect everyone else's feelings even when discussing their own lives. I typed back, asterisk, I think transparency is important for families, don't you? We're all adults here. Asterisk. Asterisk, Jake, Mom, can you call me? Asterisk. Oh, now he wanted to talk. I stared at Jake's message for a full minute before responding, asterisk, I'm busy organizing documents right now. We can talk later. Asterisk. My phone rang immediately. Jake's ringtone. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again. And again. On the fourth call, I finally picked up. What, Jake? Mom, what the hell are you doing? You can't just ask people to air out their financial business in the group chat. It's embarrassing. Embarrassing for who? For everyone. Look, if this is about our conversation earlier. You mean when you told me to get over my trauma because it made you uncomfortable? A pause. I didn't say it like that. You said it exactly like that. Mom, come on. Can't we just drop this? I'll apologize or whatever, but you're making this weird for the whole family. There it was again. His comfort taking priority over everything else. The assumption that I would just fold, just smooth things over, just make it all go away so Jake's world could continue spinning perfectly on its axis. You know what's weird, Jake? I was just looking at the college fund statements. The silence stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. Jake? You there? Yeah, look, Mom, that's ancient history. We all agreed that. We? Who's we? I don't remember Sarah or Marcus or Lisa being part of any conversation where they agreed to have their college funds raided to pay for your mistakes. That's not what happened. $23,000 from Sarah's account. $18,000 from Marcus's. Even took $4,000 from Lisa's, and she was only 14 at the time. Mom, stop. All of it to cover your DUI, your academic probation, your housing upgrades, your... I said stop. His voice cracked, and for a moment he sounded like a little boy who used to throw tantrums when he didn't get his way. God, why are you being so vindictive? This isn't like you. Vindictive. That's what standing up for myself was called in this family. You're right, I said quietly. This isn't like me. The old me would have swallowed this conversation, buried my feelings, and made sure your world stayed comfortable. But the old me was enabling you to become someone who tells his traumatized mother to just get over it because her pain inconveniences you. That's not fair. Fair? I laughed, and it sounded bitter even to my ears. Jake, do you have any idea what your siblings have sacrificed for you? Sarah's been eating cereal for dinner because her student loan payments are so high. Marcus is sleeping on a friend's couch because he can't afford a security deposit on an apartment. Lisa's working retail and babysitting to save up for community college because her fund was empty before she graduated high school. That's not my fault. No, it's mine. I let this happen. I enabled this family to treat you like you were the only child who mattered, and now you're so used to it that you can't even see it happening. The group chat was pinging with notifications. I put Jake on speaker and opened it. Asterisk, Sarah, Mom, my total is around $8,000 in direct support over 6 years. Most of that was the car loan cosign. Asterisk. Asterisk, Marcus, maybe $3,500? That includes a laptop for school and help with rent that 1 month I got sick. Asterisk. Asterisk, Lisa, I think maybe $1,200? The dental work junior year and some textbook money. Asterisk. The number sat there in the chat, stark and undeniable. Asterisk, Uncle Mike, this is inappropriate. Some things should stay private. Asterisk. Asterisk, my mother, I agree with Mike. We don't need to air our financial business. Asterisk. Of course they wanted it private. The truth was so much messier than the family mythology. Jake, I said into the phone, watching the group chat explode with uncomfortable messages. You still there? Yeah, he whispered. Your turn. The silence stretched for so long I could hear my own heartbeat. The group chat had gone quiet too, everyone waiting to see if Jake would actually answer. Jake? I prompted. I don't know the exact numbers. Ballpark it. Another long pause. Mom, this is really unfair. You're putting me on the spot in front of everyone. Sarah managed to come up with her numbers in 2 minutes. That's different. How? Because. His voice trailed off, and I realized he couldn't finish that sentence without admitting the truth, that it was different because his numbers were so much higher he'd need time to calculate them all. The group chat pinged again. Sarah had sent a message, asterisk, Jake, it's okay. We're all family here. Asterisk. Even now, even with the evidence laid bare, Sarah was trying to make him feel comfortable. 24 years old and still protecting the golden child from embarrassment. You know what? I said, pulling my legal pad closer. Let me help you out. Spring break trips, roughly 12,000 over 4 years. Car payments and insurance, I'm thinking around 15,000 total, since we've been covering both since you were 17. Mom, please stop. But I was just getting started. College fund plus additional expenses, 47,000. The DUI lawyer and court costs, 5,500. Credit card bailouts, I count at least 4 separate times, probably 8,000 total. My phone was buzzing with incoming calls, Uncle Mike, my mother, even Sarah. I ignored them all. Emergency car repairs that weren't really emergencies, 3,000. Spring formal, fraternity fees, and what you called networking expenses, maybe 6,000. Oh, and the laptop we bought you sophomore year when you claimed yours was stolen, except Marcus saw it in your dorm room 2 weeks later. That was a misunderstanding. $86,000, Jake. Minimum. And that's not counting the boat Uncle Mike is putting in your name, or the job he's handing you, or the golf memberships, or the networking connections. The group chat had erupted again. I could see notifications piling up, but I didn't look. I was watching my legal pad, all those careful calculations, and feeling something I'd never felt before when it came to Jake. I felt done. Mom, Jake's voice was small now. Everyone's going crazy in the chat. Are they? Sarah's asking if we can talk about this privately. Marcus wants to know why you're doing this now. Lisa. He paused. Lisa just said finally. Finally. Of course Lisa had said that. Lisa, who had watched from the sidelines for 20 years, who had learned not to ask for things because the answer was always that money was tight, except when it came to Jake. Mom, Uncle Mike's calling you. And Grandma. You should probably answer. Should I? I was looking at my laptop screen, where my email was open to a draft I'd been working on. The Family Reunion Planning Committee needed to know about the memory book, after all. Complete with financial documentation. Or should I finish what I started? What do you mean? I clicked send on the email. 37 family members would receive it within the hour, complete with attachment folders labeled college fund documentation and 20-year financial summary by child. I said, watching the sent confirmation appear, that I'm tired of protecting everyone else from the truth. Your grandmother wants to know why I get weird at family gatherings? Your uncle wants to lecture me about dwelling on the past? The whole family thinks I'm the problem? Mom, you're scaring me. Good. Maybe it's time someone in this family felt uncomfortable for a change. My laptop chimed with email replies already coming in. The subject lines were telling, urgent, please call, from Uncle Mike. What is this, from my mother? Holy shit, Mom, from Marcus. But the one that made me smile was from Sarah, I'm proud of you. The aftermath started within an hour. My phone rang constantly, Uncle Mike, my mother, various aunts, and cousins who suddenly had very urgent things to discuss with me. I let every single call go to voicemail while I sat at my dining room table, surrounded by 22 years of receipts, feeling lighter than I had in decades. The first crack in Jake's armor came through the family group chat, where my cousin Jennifer, Uncle Mike's daughter, posted, wait, Jake got $86,000 in family support. I had to take out loans for my entire college education and work 3 jobs. That opened the floodgates. Asterisk cousin David, hold up, Uncle Mike co-signed a car loan for Jake? I asked about that 2 years ago and got told the family doesn't mix money and relationships. Asterisk. Asterisk my nephew Tyler, are we talking about the same Jake who told me I should have planned better when I couldn't afford my textbooks? Asterisk. Asterisk Sarah, Tyler, when did he say that to you? Asterisk. Asterisk Tyler, last Christmas. Right after he showed up wearing a $300 jacket and talking about his spring break plans. Asterisk. I watched the messages multiply, each one adding another crack to the perfect family facade. These weren't just my children who had been sidelined, it was an entire generation of cousins and family members who had been taught that asking for help was inappropriate while Jake received it automatically. My doorbell rang. Through the window, I could see Uncle Mike's Mercedes in my driveway. I almost didn't answer. Almost. But then I thought about this morning, about Jake dismissing my trauma like it was an inconvenient quirk, and I opened the door. Uncle Mike stood there in his golf clothes, red-faced and furious. What the hell do you think you're doing? Having a conversation with my family. You call this a conversation? You just humiliated your own son in front of 37 people. I shared factual information about family financial dynamics. If Jake feels humiliated by facts, maybe he should examine why. Mike pushed past me into my living room, and I let him. I wanted this conversation to happen where my neighbors could hear it through the open windows. You're being vindictive and petty, he spat. Jake made one comment that rubbed you the wrong way, so you decided to destroy him? One comment? I laughed. Mike, your golden boy told his traumatized mother to get over her childhood abuse because it made family dinners awkward for him. But sure, let's focus on how I'm being vindictive. That's not what happened. Were you there? He opened his mouth, then closed it. Jake's a good kid. He didn't mean it the way you're taking it. Jake is 22 years old. He's not a kid anymore, and his intentions don't erase the impact of his words. My phone buzzed with a text from Lisa, asterisk mom, Jake just called me crying and asking me to talk to you. He wants me to convince you to fix this. I told him I was busy. Asterisk. I showed Mike the message. Look at that. Your good kid's first instinct when facing consequences is to manipulate his sister into cleaning up his mess for him. Mike's jaw tightened. You're twisting everything. That boy has never had it easy. Stop. The word came out sharper than I intended. Don't you dare stand in my living room and tell me Jake has never had it easy. Not when my other children are drowning in debt to pay for his mistakes. Those were family decisions. Family decisions? When exactly did we have a family meeting where Sarah voted to give up her college fund for Jake's DUI lawyer? I must have missed that democratic process. My laptop chimed with another email notification. The Family Reunion Planning Committee was having what appeared to be a complete meltdown in a reply all chain. Aunt Carol wanted to know if we should postpone until emotions cool down. My mother was demanding I fix this mess immediately. But cousin Jennifer had written, actually, maybe we need to have some honest conversations about how this family really works. Mike saw me reading and his face got redder. You've started something you can't finish. You think you're proving some point, but you're just destroying this family. This family was already destroyed, Mike. I just finally stopped pretending it wasn't. He stared at me for a long moment, and I could see him recalculating, trying to figure out how to handle a version of me that wasn't backing down. What do you want? He asked finally. An apology? Money for the other kids? What's it going to take for you to walk this back? I looked at him standing in my living room, still trying to manage and control, still assuming this was something that could be bought or negotiated away. I want Jake to understand what he's cost his siblings, I said quietly. And I want you to stop pretending that 22 years of blatant favoritism was just good family support. Mike's expression hardened. You're making a mistake. Jake's got opportunities coming up, real opportunities. You're going to ruin his future over hurt feelings. There it was. The threat underneath all the bluster. Are you saying his opportunities depend on my silence? The silence stretched between us, and I realized I finally had my answer about exactly how deep this favoritism went. Mike's face went very still, and I knew I'd hit something. Those opportunities exist because Jake has merit, he said carefully. But business is about relationships, and if people think he comes from a unstable family situation. Unstable. I repeated the word slowly, tasting the manipulation in it. So Jake's future depends on everyone continuing to pretend that this family's dysfunction is actually healthy? I'm saying that airing dirty laundry has consequences. My phone rang, Jake again. This time I answered it on speaker. Mom, please, his voice was thick, like he'd been crying. Uncle Mike said he'd talk to you, but people are posting crazy stuff in the group chat. Cousin Jennifer is asking why I got a car when her parents said they couldn't afford to help her. Tyler's saying I'm spoiled. This is getting really bad. Jake, I said, looking directly at Mike while I spoke. Did Uncle Mike tell you that your business opportunities might disappear if I don't take back what I said? What? No, he just said. Mom, can you please just delete the emails? Tell everyone you were upset and made a mistake? Mike was gesturing frantically, shaking his head, but I ignored him. So you want me to lie to the family and call documented financial records a mistake? It's not lying, it's private family stuff. It doesn't need to be public. Your siblings' sacrifices don't deserve to be public, but your opportunities do? That's not what I meant. Jake, I have a question for you. When's the last time you asked how Sarah was managing her student loans? Silence. Or how Marcus was doing, sleeping on his friend's couch? More silence. Or whether Lisa had enough money for textbooks? Mom, I didn't know. You didn't know because you never asked. You didn't ask because their struggles weren't your problem. Just like my trauma wasn't your problem until it inconvenienced you. Mike was making cutting motions across his throat, trying to get me to stop, but I was done protecting Jake from reality. Here's what's going to happen, I continued. You're going to call each of your siblings and you're going to have real conversations with them about how this family's favoritism has affected their lives. Not to apologize, apologies are cheap. To actually listen. And if I do that, you'll fix this? The question hung in the air, and I realized Jake still didn't understand. He thought this was a negotiation, a temporary consequence he could manage his way out of. No, Jake. I'm not fixing anything. The truth is out there now, and it's staying out there. But Uncle Mike said. Uncle Mike doesn't get to decide what I say about my own financial records and my own children. Mike stepped forward, his face dark. You're being incredibly selfish. Do you have any idea what kind of position this puts me in with my business partners? With your mother? With the whole family? The same position my other children have been in their whole lives, having to deal with the truth of who this family really is. My laptop chimed again. Sarah had sent a private message. Mom, Jake just called me asking me to talk to you. He offered to pay me to help convince you to delete everything. I told him his money came from my college fund anyway. I showed the message to Mike, whose face went pale. He's trying to bribe his sister with money that was stolen from her in the first place, I said quietly. And you still think I'm the problem here? Mike's phone started buzzing incessantly. He glanced at it and his face went from pale to gray. The business partners are asking questions, he muttered, scrolling through what appeared to be a flood of messages. Someone forwarded them your email. I felt a dark satisfaction watching him squirm. Funny how quickly news travels when it's not being carefully managed. You don't understand the position you put me in. These people expect certain standards from their associates' families. What kind of standards? The kind where you embezzle from 3 children to pay for one? It wasn't embezzling. What would you call it, Mike? My phone buzzed with another text from Sarah. Mom, Marcus just called. Jake showed up at his work crying, begging him to call you. Marcus told him he was busy and to make an appointment like any other customer. I'm dying. Despite everything, I smiled. Marcus worked at a tire shop downtown. The idea of Jake in his expensive clothes, crying in front of Marcus's coworkers, was a beautiful dose of reality. Mike saw my expression and his eyes narrowed. You're enjoying this. I'm enjoying watching consequences happen to someone who's never experienced them before. He's your son. So are Marcus and Lisa. So is Sarah. The words exploded out of me, 22 years of suppressed frustration finally finding their voice. But somehow Jake is the only one whose feelings and future ever mattered to this family. Mike stepped back, startled by my volume. Through the window, I could see my neighbor Mrs. Chin pretending to water her plants while obviously listening to every word. Lower your voice, Mike hissed. Why? Worried about what people might think? I walked to the window and opened it wider. Mrs. Chin. Did you know my brother has been systematically favoring one of my children for over 20 years? Isn't that fascinating? Jesus Christ, have you lost your mind? No, Mike. I think I'm finally finding it. My landline rang, a number I didn't recognize. I answered it anyway, because why not? Hello, is this Mrs. Patterson? This is Jennifer Martinez from the Herald Tribune. I understand there's been some family drama involving financial favoritism that's gone viral on social media. Mike lunged for the phone, but I stepped away. I'm sorry, how did you get this number? Your niece Jennifer posted some of your family's text conversation on her Instagram story. It's been shared about 2,000 times in the last hour with hashtags about toxic families and golden child syndrome. We'd love to get a comment. The blood drained from Mike's face. Hang up, he whispered frantically. Hang up right now. But I was staring at my laptop, where notifications were exploding across every social media platform. Somehow Jennifer's post had hit a nerve with people. The comments were pouring in from strangers sharing their own stories of family favoritism, financial abuse disguised as love, and golden children who never learned accountability. Mrs. Patterson? Are you there? Mike was making desperate grabbing motions for the phone, but I held it out of reach. I'll need to call you back, I told the reporter, and hung up. This is a disaster, Mike breathed. An absolute disaster. Do you realize what you've done? My phone buzzed with a call from my mother. Then another from Jake. Then from numbers I didn't recognize, probably more reporters. I've told the truth, I said calmly. If that creates a disaster, maybe we should ask ourselves why the truth is so destructive to this family. Mike's phone rang, and he answered it immediately. Yes, I know. I'm handling it. No, she's not thinking clearly. Give me 24 hours. He hung up and stared at me with something approaching panic. That was my business partner. The story is already affecting our reputation. If this goes any further. What? You'll withdraw Jake's job offer? Stop paying for his lifestyle? I'll withdraw everything, Mike said quietly. The job, the car insurance, the golf membership, all of it. And your mother is talking about changing her will. There it was, the nuclear option. The threat that was supposed to bring me to my knees. Instead, I started laughing. You think threatening Jake's inheritance is going to make me back down? I was still laughing, which seemed to unnerve Mike even more. Mike, do you not understand what just happened here? Your golden boy just spent the last hour trying to bribe and manipulate his siblings into fixing his mess. Taking away his free ride might be the best thing that ever happened to him. Mike's phone rang again, and this time when he answered, I could hear shouting through the speaker. No, I understand the optics are bad. Yes, I see the social media posts. Look, this is a family dispute that got out of hand. While he paced my living room trying to do damage control, my laptop chimed with a message from Marcus. Asterisk, Mom, you need to see this. Asterisk. He'd sent me a link to a local Facebook group where someone had screenshot Jennifer's Instagram story. The comments section was exploding with people sharing their own stories, but what caught my attention was a comment from someone named Sarah P_24. Asterisk, this is my family that's gone viral. I'm the daughter whose college fund was raided. AMA. Asterisk. My stomach dropped. Sarah was doing an impromptu interview in a Facebook comment section with 3,000 people watching. How much did your parents take from your education fund? Someone asked. Asterisk $23,000. To pay for my brother's DUI lawyer and some academic support services, aka paying someone to do his homework so he wouldn't get kicked out of his fraternity. Asterisk. Asterisk, why didn't you speak up sooner? Asterisk. Asterisk, because in families like this, speaking up makes you the problem. You learn to be grateful for scraps while watching one person get the whole meal. Asterisk. Mike saw me reading and grabbed my laptop. Holy shit. Sarah's making it worse. But I was scrolling through my phone, where Lisa had just posted her own response to a local news outlet's Instagram story. Asterisk, that's my mom who finally told the truth. I'm 20 years old working 3 jobs because there was no money left for my college after my brother's emergencies. But sure, let's talk about how airing family business is the real problem here. Asterisk. They're all talking, Mike said, staring at my laptop screen in horror. Sarah, Lisa, Marcus, they're all giving interviews to strangers on the internet. My phone rang, Marcus this time. I answered on speaker. Mom, I just want you to know that Channel 7 News called me at work. Apparently Lisa's comment got picked up by some influencer who talks about toxic family dynamics, and now they want to do a segment on financial favoritism in families. Mike was frantically shaking his head, but I found myself asking, what did you tell them? That I'd think about it. But Mom, Jake just showed up at Sarah's apartment. Her roommate texted me, he's apparently crying on her doorstep begging her to stop posting about this. Through the background noise, I could hear Marcus's coworkers talking excitedly. Someone was saying something about going viral and family drama, and I realized Marcus's story was becoming workplace entertainment. How do you feel about that? I asked. Honestly? It's the first time in my life anyone's been interested in my side of the story. Usually when Jake has a crisis, everyone just expects the rest of us to disappear until it's handled. Mike grabbed the phone from me. Marcus, this needs to stop. You kids don't understand the long-term consequences of this publicity. Uncle Mike? Marcus's voice turned cold. With respect, I've been living with the long-term consequences of your favoritism for 22 years. At least now other people can see it too. The line went dead. Mike stood there holding my phone, looking like a man watching his carefully constructed world crumble in real time. They're not going to stop, he said quietly. Your kids are enjoying this. Good, I said, taking my phone back. Maybe it's time someone in this family enjoyed something. My doorbell rang again. Through the window, I could see a news van pulling up to the curb. The news van was followed by 2 more cars, and I watched through my window as reporters set up equipment on my front lawn. My quiet suburban street had become a circus in less than 4 hours. Don't answer the door, Mike said desperately. We can still contain this if you just. Contain what? The truth? I moved toward the window, fascinated by the spectacle. Look at that, Mike. Complete strangers are more interested in my children's stories than their own family has been for 2 decades. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Asterisk Mrs. Patterson, this is Rebecca Chen from Channel 12. Your neighbor Mrs. Chen suggested we reach out. We're doing a segment on family financial dynamics and would love your perspective. Very sympathetic angle. Asterisk. Even the neighbors are talking, I mused, showing Mike the text. Mrs. Chen has been watching this family's dysfunction for years. Probably wondering why one kid gets dropped off in different luxury cars every week while the others take a bus. Mike's face had gone from red to a sickly pale green. You cannot talk to reporters. My business partners are already asking questions. If this gets on the evening news. What business are you in again, Mike? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like your main business has been managing this family's image while Jake bleeds everyone else dry. A knock came at the door, not the aggressive pounding I expected from reporters, but a gentle tap. Through the peephole, I saw Sarah standing on my porch, looking remarkably calm for someone who'd just become an accidental internet sensation. I opened the door, noting how the reporters immediately perked up when they saw her. One of them called out, "Sarah, can we ask you a few questions?" She turned to face them with a composure I'd never seen from her before. "I'm here to see my mother. If you want to talk, wait until I'm done." The authority in her voice stunned me. This was not the anxious, people-pleasing daughter who usually bent over backward to avoid conflict. "Sarah, sweetheart," I said as she stepped inside. "The reporters are the least of our problems," she finished, looking pointedly at Mike. "Uncle Mike. Interesting timing for a visit." Mike straightened his shoulders, trying to regain some authority. "Sarah, this has gone far enough. Your little social media stunt is affecting real people's livelihoods." "My social media stunt?" Sarah's laugh was sharp. "Uncle Mike, I answered honest questions about my own life. If that threatens someone's livelihood, maybe they should examine their business model." My phone rang, Jake again. This time Sarah picked it up. "Hi, Jake. No, I'm not going to convince Mom of anything. No, I won't delete my posts." "Because?" She looked directly at Mike while she spoke. "Because for the first time in my adult life, people are listening to something other than your sob stories." She hung up and turned to me. "Mom, Jake's been calling everyone. Marcus, Lisa, even some of our cousins, trying to get them to pressure you into fixing this. He offered Lisa $500 to post something supportive about him." "He what?" Mike stepped forward. "That's not. Jake wouldn't." "Jake absolutely would," Sarah said calmly. "Because he's never learned that consequences can't be bought off or manipulated away." Wonder where he got that idea? Through the window, I could see more cars arriving. Not news vans, family cars. Aunt Carol's SUV, my mother's sedan, even Jennifer's little Honda. The Patterson family reunion was happening on my front lawn, whether anyone had planned it or not. "Mom," Sarah said softly, "before the circus gets bigger, I need you to know something. Lisa's talking to a lawyer." My stomach dropped. "What kind of lawyer?" Mike stepped forward sharply. "A lawyer? About what?" Sarah's smile was grim. "About whether taking money from a minor's college fund without permission constitutes financial abuse. Apparently, the internet thinks Lisa might have a case." The color drained completely from Mike's face as he realized what Sarah was saying. This wasn't just family drama anymore. This was heading toward legal territory, and everyone who had enabled Jake's lifestyle might be about to face real consequences. "Sarah," Mike said carefully, "that's a very serious accusation." "Yes," she replied. "It is." My doorbell rang 3 times in rapid succession, followed by my mother's voice calling, "Open this door right now, young lady." Young lady. I was 45 years old, but apparently standing up for myself had reduced me to a scolded child in her eyes. Sarah moved to the window and peered out. "Grandma's here, and she looks furious. Aunt Carol's with her, and, oh wow, Uncle Dave too." Even Jennifer's parents showed up. Mike was pacing now, his phone buzzing constantly. This is exactly what I was trying to prevent. The whole family's going to implode. "The whole family imploded 22 years ago," I said, watching through the window as my relatives huddled together on the lawn, clearly strategizing. "We've just been pretending it didn't." The pounding started again, more insistent now. "I know you're in there. We need to talk about this mess you created." Sarah looked at me questioningly. "Do you want to let them in?" Before I could answer, my phone rang with a call from Lisa. I put it on speaker. "Mom, you need to know that Jake just showed up at my work." Lisa's voice was shaky but determined. "He made a scene in front of my manager, crying about how I was ruining his life. My boss had to ask him to leave." Mike grabbed at the phone. "Lisa, honey, Jake's just upset." "Don't." Lisa's voice turned ice cold. "Don't you dare honey me, Uncle Mike. Jake got me written up because my manager thinks I have family drama affecting my work performance. I might lose my job because your golden boy couldn't handle his consequences privately." The pounding on the door intensified, and I could hear multiple voices now. My mother, Carol, even some of the cousins who'd apparently driven over after seeing the social media explosion. "Lisa," I said, "what did you tell your manager?" "The truth. That my family's dysfunction just went public and my brother was having a tantrum about finally facing some accountability." "You know what she said?" "She said she was impressed by how professionally I've handled everything, and she's promoting me to assistant manager." I couldn't help but smile. Lisa, my youngest, who'd been overlooked and underfunded her entire life, was getting promoted while Jake was having public meltdowns. "That's wonderful, sweetheart." "It gets better," Lisa continued. 3 of my coworkers asked for your contact information after Jake left. Apparently they all have family members who've been enabled their whole lives, and they want to know how you finally found the courage to stop." Mike sank into my couch, looking defeated. "This is spiraling completely out of control." "Or maybe it's finally in control for the first time," Sarah said. "Maybe chaos is what happens when you stop managing everyone else's emotions." My laptop chimed with an email notification. The subject line made me laugh out loud. "Interview request, Dr. Patricia Williams, Family Dynamics Specialist, National Public Radio. NPR wants to interview me about family financial abuse," I announced to the room. Apparently our little family drama has sparked a national conversation. Mike's phone rang, and he answered it with a defeated, "Hello?" His face went even paler as he listened. "Yes, I understand the optics are concerning. No, I don't think she's going to stop." "What do you mean suspended pending review?" He hung up and looked at me with something approaching desperation. "They're suspending me from the business pending a review of my family associations and financial practices. 20 years of building that partnership, gone because you couldn't keep family business private. 20 years of building a partnership on the back of my children's college funds," I corrected. "Maybe it deserves to be gone." The voices outside were getting louder, more demanding. I could hear Jennifer arguing with my mother, and Carol trying to play peacemaker, and Uncle Dave asking someone to explain what the hell was happening. Sarah moved away from the window. Mom, they're not going away. And the reporters are interviewing anyone who'll talk to them. Cousin Jennifer just gave what looked like a pretty detailed statement to Channel 7. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus, *Mom, you should probably know that Jake just called my boss trying to get me fired. Said I was spreading lies about family on company time. Joke's on him, my boss is the one who forwarded me the NPR article about toxic family dynamics. He wants me to write something for the company newsletter about overcoming adversity. The irony was beautiful. Every attempt Jake made to control the narrative was backfiring spectacularly, creating more opportunities for his siblings than they'd ever had before. Mike stood up slowly, looking older than I'd ever seen him. I need to go do damage control. But this isn't over. Jake's future. Jake's future is finally going to be determined by Jake's choices instead of everyone else's sacrifices, I interrupted. That's the best gift we could give him. As Mike headed for the door, Sarah called after him, Uncle Mike? The lawyer Lisa's talking to? She specializes in family financial abuse cases. Just thought you should know. The door slammed behind him, leaving Sarah and me alone with the sound of raised voices outside and my phone buzzing with interview requests from journalists across the country. So, Sarah said, settling into the chair Mike had vacated. Ready to talk to NPR? I stared at my phone, NPR's interview request still glowing on the screen, when Sarah's expression suddenly shifted from satisfaction to concern. Mom, we need to talk about something, she said, glancing toward the window where our family circus continued. Before you do any interviews, you should know what Jake's been telling people. My stomach tightened. What kind of things? He's spinning this as you having some kind of breakdown. Telling people that your trauma has made you unstable, that you're lashing out irrationally and trying to destroy the family because you can't handle your own issues. The words hit like ice water. Of course. When all else failed, attack the messenger's credibility. He called Grandma crying for 2 hours last night, Sarah continued. Told her you'd been acting erratic since starting therapy, that you were obsessing over old family financial records because you couldn't cope with your own problems. He made it sound like this was all some kind of mental health episode. I could feel the familiar shame creeping in, the voice that whispered maybe I was overreacting, maybe I was the problem, maybe I should just apologize and make everything go back to normal. But then I looked at the documentation spread across my dining room table, 22 years of receipts that had nothing to do with my mental health and everything to do with systematic favoritism. Sarah, do you think I'm having a breakdown? She was quiet for a moment, really considering the question. Mom, I think you're finally having a breakthrough. But Jake's version is going to be easier for some people to believe. My phone buzzed with a call from my mother. I let it ring through to voicemail, then played the message on speaker. Sweetheart, I'm very worried about you. Jake explained about your therapy stirring up difficult feelings, and while I understand you're struggling, this public display is just, it's not like you. Please call me so we can discuss getting you some help before this goes any further. The manipulation was masterful. Jake had transformed my documentation of his privileged treatment into evidence of my mental instability. My decision to finally speak truth was being reframed as a cry for help. He's good at this, I said quietly. He's had 22 years of practice, Sarah replied. Every time he screwed up, it somehow became someone else's problem to solve. Now his problem is that the truth came out, so making it your mental health crisis is just, it's what he does. My laptop chimed with another email, this one from Jake's girlfriend Emma, whom I barely knew. Mrs. Patterson, Jake is really worried about you. He said you've been fixated on old financial records and making accusations that don't make sense. He's just trying to protect you from embarrassing yourself further. Maybe you should talk to your therapist before doing any more interviews? The audacity was breathtaking. Jake was now recruiting his girlfriend to gaslight me via email. Sarah, show me what he's posting on his social media. She hesitated. Mom, maybe you don't want to see. Show me. Sarah pulled up Instagram on her phone, navigating to Jake's account. His latest post was a photo of our family from last Christmas, all of us smiling around the tree, with a caption that made my blood boil. Going through a tough time with family right now. Sometimes when people are dealing with their own trauma and mental health struggles, they can lash out at the people closest to them. I just want my mom to get the help she needs. Our family has always supported each other through difficult times, and that's not going to change now. Please respect our privacy during this challenging period. #family first, #mental health matters. The comments below were exactly what he'd been fishing for. Praying for your family. Your mom is lucky to have such a caring son. Mental health is so important. Hope she gets the support she needs. I scrolled through dozens of supportive messages, each one reinforcing Jake's narrative that I was an unstable woman having a breakdown rather than a mother finally exposing the truth. He's getting ahead of the story, Sarah observed grimly. Making this about your mental health instead of his behavior. My phone rang, the NPR number again. I stared at it, realizing that Jake had just made this interview infinitely more complicated. How do you tell a national audience about systematic family favoritism when the favored child has already publicly labeled you as mentally unstable? Mom, Sarah said softly, Jake's not just fighting back. He's fighting dirty. Through the window, I could see my mother approaching the door with a determined expression, probably armed with Jake's version of events and ready to stage an intervention for my supposed mental health crisis. The interview request was still pending on my phone screen. One click would connect me to a national platform where I could share the documented truth. But Jake had just poisoned that well by making my credibility the issue instead of his behavior. This wasn't just about family favoritism anymore. This was war. I answered the NPR call. Mrs. Patterson? This is Dr. Patricia Williams. I understand you might be interested in discussing family financial dynamics on our show. Through the window, I could see my mother marching up the walkway with the determination of a woman on a mission. Behind her, Jake's car was pulling into the driveway. Dr. Williams, before we schedule anything, you should know that the family member in question has just launched a public campaign claiming I'm mentally unstable. I see. And how do you feel about that characterization? The directness of her question caught me off guard. I feel like it's exactly what someone would say when 22 years of documented financial favoritism suddenly became public. Documented? Bank statements, college fund records, insurance claims, loan documents. I have receipts for everything. Sarah was watching Jake get out of his car, her expression grim. He looked haggard, his usual confident swagger replaced by something desperate and frantic. Mrs. Patterson, would you be willing to share some of that documentation? Off the record initially, just so I can understand the scope of what we're discussing. Jake was at the door now, talking intensely with my mother. I could see him gesturing, his face animated with what looked like concern but felt like performance. Doctor, can I ask you something? In your experience, when someone finally exposes a toxic family dynamic, how often does the family rally around the person being exposed versus the person doing the exposing? Almost never around the person telling the truth, initially, she said without hesitation. Truth-telling threatens the entire family system. Everyone who has benefited from or enabled the dysfunction has a vested interest in discrediting the truth-teller. The doorbell rang, followed by my mother's voice. Sweetheart, Jake's here. We're all very worried about you. That's my mother and a golden child at my door right now, I told Dr. Williams. They're here to do damage control. How does that make you feel? I watched Jake through the window as he pulled out his phone, probably to document this intervention for his social media narrative. Always thinking about optics, always managing his image. It makes me feel like I've been living in an alternate reality my entire adult life, I said. For 22 years, I questioned my own perceptions. Wondered if I was imagining the favoritism, if I was being too sensitive, if I was the problem. Now I have proof that I wasn't crazy, and they're trying to convince everyone that I am. Sarah moved to the door, hand on the deadbolt, waiting for my signal. Mrs. Patterson, I'd like to propose something. What if we did a two-part interview? First, just you sharing the documented facts. Then, if your family wants to respond, they're welcome to a follow-up segment. Let the evidence speak for itself. The knocking intensified. I could hear multiple voices now, Jake, my mother, and what sounded like Aunt Carol. When would you want to do this? We could do a phone interview right now, actually. Strike while the iron's hot, before the narrative gets more muddied. I looked at Sarah, who nodded encouragingly. Outside, Jake was pacing on my porch, phone pressed to his ear. Probably calling more family members, building his coalition of concerned relatives worried about my mental state. Let's do it, I said. But I want my daughter Sarah here as a witness. She's been watching this favoritism her entire life. Absolutely. Sarah, are you comfortable being part of this conversation? Sarah took the phone from me. Dr. Williams, I'm 24 years old. I've been financially supporting myself since I was 16 while watching my brother receive six-figure family support. I have a lot to say about family financial dynamics. The pounding on the door reached a crescendo, and Jake's voice rose above the others. Mom, please. We just want to help you. I looked at Sarah, at the documentation spread across my table, at my phone where a national radio show was waiting to hear our story. Dr. Williams, I said, taking the phone back, let's burn this whole thing down. Chunk 15. The NPR interview went live that afternoon. Dr. Williams was brilliant. She let me present the financial documentation methodically while Sarah provided context about the emotional impact. When Jake called into the show claiming I was having a mental health crisis, Dr. Williams calmly asked him to explain the college fund transfers. When he couldn't, she thanked him for his time and disconnected. By evening, #GoldenChild Syndrome was trending on 3 platforms. But the real resolution came 6 months later, in the most unexpected way. I was at Sarah's apartment, her new apartment, the one she could finally afford after the interview led to a job offer from a financial literacy nonprofit, when Jake knocked on the door. He looked different. Smaller somehow, less polished. His car had been repossessed 2 months earlier when Uncle Mike cut off his support following the business partnership collapse. The job offer had evaporated along with Mike's reputation. Can we talk? He asked quietly. Sarah looked at me questioningly. I nodded. Jake sat across from us, hands shaking slightly. I've been in therapy, he said without preamble. Real therapy, not the kind where you just complain about everyone else. I waited. My therapist made me write letters to each of you. About the money, the favoritism, all of it. I'm not supposed to give them to you unless you want them, but... He pulled out an envelope addressed to me. I need you to know that I understand now. Understand what? That telling you to get over your trauma wasn't just cruel, it was the exact same thing this family has been doing to Marcus, Sarah, and Lisa their whole lives. Telling them to get over the injustice, get over the inequality, get over being treated like they mattered less. Sarah leaned forward. Jake, what do you want from us? Nothing, he said, and for the first time in his life, I believed him. I can't get back the opportunities, can't undo the damage to your credit scores or college experiences. But I got a job, a real job that I got myself, and I'm paying Marcus and Lisa back first. It'll take years, but... He stood up, leaving the letter on the coffee table. I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed you to know that I finally understand why you don't trust me to change. Trust has to be earned through actions over time, not words and promises. After he left, Sarah and I sat in silence for a long moment. Think he means it? She asked. I thought about the Jake who had dismissed my trauma, who had spent decades accepting unearned privileges without question. Then I thought about the man who had just walked away without asking for anything, who understood that some damage can't be undone with apologies. I think he's finally experiencing consequences, I said. And maybe that's what love actually looks like sometimes. The letter stayed unopened on Sarah's table. There would be time for reading it later, when we were ready. For now, it was enough to know that the truth I'd fought so hard to expose had finally reached the person who needed to hear it most. My phone buzzed with a text from Lisa. Jake sent me a payment plan for the college fund money. No strings attached, no family pressure to accept it. Just acknowledgement. Marcus had gotten a similar message. The family reunion was next month. Jake wouldn't be giving the speech about family values, Jennifer's daughter was, talking about financial equity and supporting each other's dreams equally. Some things couldn't be fixed. But finally, they had been acknowledged. And sometimes, that's where healing begins.